Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 9:36 a.m. You are tuned into News and Views right here on Salam Media. And next we're going to be talking to Reza Amra, a partner at Turning Point Chartered Accountants in South Africa, about a very interesting workshop that's going to be taking place this coming Saturday. Reza, assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Reza, are you there?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and your listeners.
Lovely talking with you this morning. And of course, you guys have something really interesting. Let me also just share with our listeners and viewers this morning that inshallah, you are with Amal. Let's just get you're a partner at Turning Point Chartered Accountant South Africa, am I correct? And
Gee, that's correct.
Right. So I also see that Amal, in partnership with UUSA, SANZAF, OCAF, oh wow, and Turning Point South Africa is hosting this workshop. Gee, with all the heavyweights here. So this is really a not to be missed workshop if you are in the finance space, I should imagine.
Gee, in fact, it's open to all non-profit organizations, trustees of non-profit organizations, those involved obviously within the finance departments, as well as even to fundraisers as well. So yeah, I think we've been fortunate that we've got the support of the relevant role players. I think it is an area which does require insight, especially with all the changes that are coming through in terms of legislation that impacts on non-profit organizations.
What about people who are in, finance managers, heads of department of finances, the banking fraternity, people in that space? Would it serve them well as well to hook up to this workshop?
I think whilst it will be a good to know and knowledge to have, it would be directed more towards those involved in non-profit organizations. So perhaps, you might have someone who's working in a corporate environment like a bank, but could be serving as a treasurer for a non-profit organization, or could be volunteering their expertise to a society perhaps as well. It would be open to those individuals.
Okay, so tell us more about this workshop. I see it says NPO, PBO Review and Refresher Guidelines Workshop. That does tell me that, and if memory serves me correctly, I think you guys have in fact held several other workshops in the past. So would this be a natural follow-on?
Gee, I think Amal, and together with Al Baraka Bank and the other partners like OCAF, SANZAF, and UCSA, have been at the forefront of obviously changing mindsets and empowering non-profit organizations. What we have found over the years, very often an organization would perhaps start off, in a small capacity where you'd have the founder of the organization, or perhaps even certain ulama who, perhaps through a masjid or a society that are running a madrasa, would decide to actually expand the service offering in terms of humanitarian efforts, in line with the prophetic model as well, where our masjids and our societies should be community centers. But unfortunately, what's happened over the years is that we find that with regard to the financial and statutory compliance, there does seem to be a bit of a lag. And the issue is that the non-profit sector can be quite complex in terms of the legislation that governs the sector, and rightly so as well, because obviously you're dealing with public monies. So accountability is quite important, compliance is quite important. So except for reporting to your donor community, remember, you also have legislation which governs non-profit organizations, be it SARS, be it Department of Social Development as well. So the compliance levels, can be quite strenuous. It can be quite difficult for organizations without the necessary expertise to actually ensure that. What happened last year, I think it was, where we actually rolled out the risk assessment, where a toolkit was developed, which actually formed part of a self-assessment that non-profit organizations could quite simply in a snapshot, where they could actually assess their compliance levels and sort of give them insight into areas that they need to be aware of. So the series of workshops now is a follow-up to that. I think it is quite important, that we provide the support to the sector, as opposed to just leaving them with the toolkit on their own. And that's why the initiative has come about, whereby we obviously give an opportunity to organizations to obviously then ask questions. Hopefully they would have gone through these toolkits as well, but at the same time also providing them with updates and changes in legislation since then.
And rightly so, alhamdulillah, for taking up this initiative, because it is really upliftment of our community and the type of the NPOs, the work that they do. And you're also right when you say that they need to be aware of corporate governance issues, etc. And they are dealing with large amounts of money as well, so that they handle it and disburse with it in the correct fashion and manner. Having said all of that, Reza, when and where does this happen, and how do people register?
Okay, so it will be happening this week, Saturday, the 8th of July. The start time is 10 a.m. and we do plan to finish off by 12. The venue is the Amra offices in Sherwood, which is close to the 45th cutting, I think the Sufi Masjid. But we are also catering for those individuals that are unable to attend face-to-face. We've been fortunate that we could also, or we are also hosting on Zoom as well. For bookings, they could email info@amal.co.za. So I'm just going to repeat that, info@amal.co.za, or contact the Amal offices on 031 207 3381. 031 207 3381.
And the cost of attending or, hooking up via Zoom, the cost to the individuals?
There is no cost. It is a free session to the sector itself, as sponsored by Al Baraka Bank, UXA, as well as Amr, Sanzaf, and OCAF.
Subhanallah. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap up? And of course, urge people that are in this space to try and attend, even if it is via Zoom. It would obviously serve you and your organization very, very well. Anything else we need to know, Reza?
Yeah, I think it is quite important for organizations in this space to attend, especially with all the changes coming through in terms of Section 18A. I think many organizations might be aware of the changes that have come through from the 1st of March this year, with new requirements now actually required on the 18A certificates itself in terms of the format and information that's contained in this. This is actually just the basis for the next step, which SARS are now planning, whereby 18A certificates need to actually be provided to SARS directly by the organizations. So this is something that's coming. I think organizations need to be aware of it. We do find many organizations still manage their 18A receipting function manually with manual receipt books perhaps as well. So there are significant changes that will be coming through pretty soon, and we will be covering that in quite a bit of detail as well. Because it is an area that causes quite a bit of confusion in terms of the existing legislation, let alone the new requirements coming through. So, yeah.
Reza, shukran very much for that. Undoubtedly, it's going to be a jam-packed session, and alhamdulillah, we do know that this will serve our NPOs and our community as a whole, will serve us very, very well indeed. Thank you indeed for you. That is, you are the partner Turning Point Chartered Accountants, for being involved together with the other partners, which of course is Al Baraka, OCAF, Sanzef, and the United Ulama Council of South Africa. It's nice to see that the ulama body is involved as well, alhamdulillah. It just goes to show how far community has come. It's very, very comforting, isn't it, Reza?
Yes, most definitely. I think that's the beauty about it, is that especially I think as a community, the work that's undertaken and the efforts of even your little organizations far and wide across the country, and as I mentioned earlier on, even those centers that are merely just operating as a masjid, for instance, a society operating in a small community, more often than not, that actually becomes an outlet whereby all of the humanitarian efforts, whether it's feeding, whether it's poverty alleviation or skills development or education, all of those aspects actually get rolled out through those centers. So you don't necessarily have to be a huge multinational organization, to be able to actually function efficiently and obviously have these rules in place whereby you're obviously accountable to the donor community. So it is targeted at those smaller organizations as well.
Alhamdulillah, and as you say, you don't need to be a large, corporate organization. But Alhamdulillah, by way of this workshop, you'd be able to empower them enough to have the same knowledge that sits with large corporates. So, hats off to you and all the partners that I mentioned just now. You are a partner at Turning Point Chartered Accountant South Africa. Reza, Amra, shukran very, very much. Jazakallah, and we do know it's going to be a great workshop. Thank you for talking to us.
Only a pleasure. Thank you for the time as well. Assalamu alaikum wa
Salam.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. 9:46 News and Views on Salam Media. Standing by to talk to us is motivational consultant and also a nasheed artist. And that, of course, is you. Inaya Petka. We'll come to you in a minute or two.